Hello, I'm Yoko, and welcome back to Year 9 of GalaxyClan. This is a series, so if you're new, I recommend checking out the playlist linked below or in a card above. Sorry this episode got pushed back a week. Sometimes life be like that. Big things happened this time, including but not limited to the fact that I finally got GalaxyClan moved over to the updated version of ClanGen instead of, the August 10 version that it has been on for the past years. The switch happened about halfway through this year, and you guys might actually regret having me switch it when you see what happened literally as soon as I did, but I'll let you know when we get to that. I also got the newest update of the game after that, so some cats actually have new secondary traits now. So everyone that was a former loner or former kitty pet has a new trait. With that said, let's start by sadly heading into StarClan, and you guys aren't going to be prepared this time because this is the biggest amount of deaths we've ever had in this series. First up is Specklenose, who died at 111 moons old, and she was killed by a dog. And there's more to that death. Mint Splash was actually the only other cat on that patrol, conveniently. I was pairing up Mint Splash specifically on patrols with cats that he had been arguing with, or cats that were close to Fernhardt this year, to see if anything suspicious might happen, and Specklenose straight up died. So in my mind, when the dog showed up, they had both been running away, and Mint Splash tripped Specklenose, leading to the dog getting her. He probably then burst into camp, making a scene about a dangerous dog and how he couldn't do anything to save her. Specklenose had been her normal girl boss self before this, and she was probably really angry at the time of her death. Notably, as soon as she died, she had the status of wanting to warn Ravenspot, which was very concerning. Also, her secondary trait used to be that she was a former loner, but now we know that she is an excellent teacher. So we'll have to see how her apprentice Molepaw turned out. But yeah, poor Specklenose, she's now Mint Splash's second victim, and I'll miss her. Next up is a punch to the gut, because Aspen Lily died this year at 102 moons old. The game said he died after I time skipped, and all it technically said was Aspen Lily died in an accident. The game didn't say it was murder, but based on previous events and something else that happened this very same moon, I'm making the decision that Mint Splash definitely killed him. Unfortunately, his third victim, they actually had an argument on patrol the moon before this as well, so the timing is extra suspicious. I feel so bad for Aspen Lily. He's been so sad in StarClan and he keeps missing his loved ones. At least Aspen Lily is with all his children that have died before this. He can now see Tawny Sun, Hazel Runner, Patchwing, and Shellkit again now. It really hurts losing Aspen Lily. He was a clan founder, and him and Ravenspot have been a couple for 8 years in the game. There's still more cats in StarClan, but first I'm gonna make a quick detour. Welcome to the Dark Forest. Mint Splash died, so it's time to celebrate. He died at 32 moons old, and on the time skip screen for this moon it said, Aspen Lily died in an accident, followed immediately by Mint Splash was murdered. While there could have been other ways of interpreting this, for maximum drama, I'm choosing to say Mint Splash killed Aspen Lily, and Ravenspot caught him. Ravenspot was then the cat to kill Mint Splash. We'll get into Ravenspot's feelings later in the video, but before getting killed, Mint Splash had been his annoying self as usual. While on patrol with Fernhardt's younger siblings, who had just become warriors, he tried to pretend he got a vision from StarClan, but neither of them were buying it. He killed Patchwing, Specklenose, and Aspen Lily. Dark Forest for you. How dare you destroy Fernhardt like this and just the cuddle bugs in general? Mint Splash, worst cat in the series? I don't even care. He was actually also looking at specifically Bright Mask with Malice while in the Dark Forest, so I'm kind of worried. Unrelated side note, Frecklespot was limping after a fight this year, and I'm pretty sure that was against the other Dark Forest cats and not Mint Splash, but I thought you guys would enjoy hearing that. I kind of fear what would happen if these two run into each other and make a truce, especially since neither of them like Bright Mask, apparently. But yeah, bye Mint Splash, let's get back to StarClan where we will cry more. Because next up is Odd, who died at 168 moons old, and Bat, who died at 165 moons. They didn't die at the same time, but I drew them together for obvious reasons. So first up, let's talk about Odd. So when I finally moved over GalaxyClan over to the new version, Odd died literally the first time skip I did. So this is what I meant when I jokingly said you guys might regret me moving the cats over to the new version. I think Odd's immortality might have been tied to the old version. Luckily, she just went out on her own and was found peacefully dead, so it was nothing traumatic, just old age, and it was just her time. Also, turns out she was a good storyteller and a good mediator, which I find pretty accurate. Now on to Bat, who was also a good mediator, surprisingly. So GalaxyClan got over my set clan size this year, which means I ran one of my population control generators. I'll link it below if you want to see what it was, but I used one about Harsh Leaf Bear, and Bat was one of many cats that did not survive. While he died with the generator, I think it was just his time in general too, and old age took him. As sad as his death is, I'm happy he's with Odd again, but with that said, we have a lot more victims of this Harsh Leaf Bear generator, so let's get into them. Two of which being these kits who you've never met, Almond Kit and Swarm Kit, who died at 1 moon old after getting sick. They were the kits of a loner that joined this year, and no one in the clan was a nursing queen at the time, so I honestly have no idea how any of them were being fed. We might have gotten help from Bug Clan or something, but while these two died, 3 of their siblings survived. I was not expecting another litter of 5 kits so soon after Emberfeather's litter, but we'll get into them later. Almond Kit was a polite Tom with an active imagination, and after checking the files, his full name would have been Almond Clove. Swarm Kit was a little daydreamer who was quick-witted, and her full name would have been Swarm Leaf, and I probably would have renamed her so she wasn't too close to Swan Leaf. I didn't get to know these too well, but kitten deaths are always really sad to see, but on to more victims. Sadly, Potato Cloud also died at 70 moons old after catching green cough during the Harsh Leaf Bear. Before, Potato Cloud was doing generally pretty good, and only a small slip-up of getting a bite from a small dog. Potato Cloud had been in the running for a potential future deputy in my mind as well, so this death hurt. I thought he would be a good choice in the future. He really got taken down when he was doing his best. He was such a good mentor to Patchwing and Spirepaw, and really seemed to be more confident these days. He was also playing with kits, and since that was the same moon both him and Almond Kit and Swarm Kit died of sickness, I think it was more so he was trying to cheer them up while they were in the medicine cat den. Especially because one of the traits he gained after updating was that he was a good kit sitter. My heart, it hurts. Rest in peace, Potato Cloud. I will miss our aromantic icon. The next victim to the Harsh Leaf Bear was sadly Blue Light, who died at 142 moons old, and it was probably due to the food shortage combined with cold and old age. Considering last year he was more concerned with making sure Burdock Star remembered to eat, I think he probably wasn't eating as much as he should have. Blue Light never did become Burdock Star's mate or confess, but he seemed happy during his last few years of life regardless. Blue Light was also the only former kitty pet in the clan, and I hope to get more in the future, but first the clan needs to not be this big. I'm going to miss Blue Light. He was a great cat that always looked out for others, helping out big time in the Creek Clan battle, as well as doing little things like reinforcing the camp or watching the kits, which, side note, the game also made him a good kit sitter, which fit great with what I already said about him. Still sad he never had any of his own, but that's Blue Light. And the last cat that died to the Leaf Bear generator, but not to die in general this year, was sadly Bubble Speck at 49 moons old when he accidentally crossed the Sharp Clan border while desperately chasing escaping prey. The Sharp Clan warrior Sagefern found him and harshly killed him for the mistake. Sharp Clan warriors have become more violent and go for the kill against enemies. After almost 2 years of Sharp Clan doing only solo patrols, most are fierce cats that can take on a dog solo. Bubble Speck's death led to rising tensions between GalaxyClan and Sharp Clan, and a couple cats caused an outburst at a gathering that moon. Bubble Speck was another cat I was looking at as potential future deputy material, so it's really sad to see him go, especially since he had just been trying to provide for his starving clan. I feel like Bubble Speck really got robbed in life, almost getting killed as an apprentice, his crush Patchwing dying, his brother almost dying, etc. This poor guy had a rough life, but he at least trained an apprentice before dying, but we'll get there later. For now, that's Bubble Speck, and on to our last new cat in Star Clan. Burdock Star is sadly the last cat. She died at 158 moons old. Earlier in the year, Burdock Star had been hoping for a sign from Star Clan as she felt lost and worried trouble was coming. She hesitantly enjoyed watching Pale Path's litter grow, but was scared to get too close to them. The death of Aspen Lily and Mintsplash shocked her, but she did not punish Ravenspot for his act of murder. She understood that he was dealing with enough right now. This year has been really stressful for her, and she actually lost 2 lives due to green cough and another when she was buried in snow. She could have died for good when she was trapped in there, but another cat who had been buried too managed to save her while they were badly hurt as well. We'll get into who that was later. Her last life, however, was lost when higher-up Sharp Clan warriors raided the camp the moon after Bubble Speck's death and the outburst at the gathering. Blood warning for a picture going up. Makwasara herself went straight for Burdock Star's den and killed her. And this is an outcome based on the fact that during this moon, 4 separate cats thought they smelled an enemy warrior nearby. And technically, Burdock Star lost this last life to something else in-game. But this is more dramatic and fits with what happened earlier, and I'm going with this, and the picture's off the screen now. With that said, this happened at the very last moon of this year, so expect a Sharp Clan battle next year. But with Burdock Star gone, that means GalaxyClan has moved on to their 3rd leader, so that means I made a leadership ceremony section. Since this new version actually makes one for you, I kept most of what it said in-game, but switched a couple cats or words around to be more special to this new leader. I also personally didn't want duplicate cats to give lives in the series, so that everyone's a bit more special. So if they gave Burdock Star a life, you won't see them here, but with that said, let's get into it. Swanleaf led the new soon-to-be leader through the Starfields in Cinder Speck's place as he wouldn't be able to make it here. Leafbear had just left and the Fireflies weren't as active as usual. She led them to the Moonfall, and despite the recent green cough outbreak, the 2 jumped through the water. Brightmask was soaked by the water, and despite his shivering, he simply lays down feeling the spray of water and closes his eyes, immediately being surrounded by starry cats. Whiskerheart strides forward first, an energy and confidence in her steps that had been long gone. She leans forward and gives him a life for integrity. Lake Tree walked up next. She smiled, commenting on how StarClan knew he was destined for this from the day he was born, bringing up the "there still lives a pale hope" prophecy. Fittingly, she leans forward and gives him a life for hope. Patchwing steps forward next, telling Brightmask not to mess things up. She suddenly gets serious, and she gave Brightmask a life for justice. Brightmask grits his teeth as the life rushed into him, feeling Patchwing's emotions. Stoneleaf walked up next. He shook his head and smirked, leaning forward and giving a life for persistence, commenting on how Brightmask never took no for an answer when trying to help him, and that he is proud to see him. Aspen Lily walked up next with a sadness in his eyes despite his smile. Brightmask had a feeling that Aspen Lily would have preferred Ravenspot to be here instead of him. Aspen Lily softly walked up, simply offering a life for loving others. Odd is next to give a life, and she walked up with her usual smile, making Brightmask realize he missed the old cat. She chuckled and leaned forward, giving Brightmask a life for humor. Surprising Brightmask, the next to scurry up was unexpectedly Swarm Kit. The small Kit smiling up at him, excited that she could be important to the clan. Brightmask crouched down so Swarm Kit could actually reach him, and with some stumbling, Swarm Kit gave him a life for curiosity, asking him to watch her daddy for him as she scampered away, revealing a cat that made Brightmask's heart hurt. Bubblespeck dipped his head in greeting at his brother, smiling. He joked about how he better actually stay out of trouble now before leaning forward. Energy surges through Brightmask's pelt as they receive a life for instincts. Bubblespeck reassured his brother that they were almost done. And finally, Burdock Star steps forward. There is pride yet worry in her gaze as she stares into Brightmask's eyes. She gives him a life for loyalty to their clan and hails Brightmask as their new name, Bright Star, telling them that their old life is no more. They are granted guardianship of GalaxyClan and are told to use their new power wisely. Everyone chants Bright Star's new name, and Bright Star is determined to face the upcoming challenges. So the 50-moon-old Bright Star is now the leader of GalaxyClan. Ravenspot had stepped down from the deputy position himself after everything that happened about halfway through the year, and Burdock Star chose Brightmask to replace him. She had grown fond of him after everything with Frecklespot and was proud of his actions with Stoneleaf. Last year, she gave him Darkpaw as an apprentice, and she basically immediately gave him a second one this year, so she really trusted him. He had been a really good mentor to both of his former apprentices, and they really trust him. Brightstar seems to have been a good guide when they went through some internal struggles of various kinds, and he made them both feel comfortable being themselves. Brightstar was also thinking about Kits earlier this year, but he knows the cat that he currently has romantic feelings for is going through a lot and isn't pursuing anything yet, especially now that he has a position of power over her. I'm mostly ignoring the relationship tab this year in the game, as they were randomly generated upon switching, and I needed to make some cats temporary mediators to adjust some things, to be more like what was set up as canon. But I feel the need to point out that without mediating, both Brightmask and Fernhardt have a small crush on each other, which is adorable, and we'll have to see how this ends up in the future. The end of this year was really hard on Bright Star, losing both his brother and leader to Sharp Clan. He's nervous with the upcoming battle and has been training cats how to avoid death blows since he knows Sharp Clan will go for them and he's too familiar with them after his Dark Forest adventures. Now, as for our new deputy, Brightmask had wanted Bubble Speck to be his future deputy and was a little lost until he ended up deciding on the 61 Moon-old Emberfeather. Brightmask seeks someone with a little bit more experience for this position. Emberfeather's been doing a lot better this year. He still misses Palepath a lot, but he's done his best to be a good dad. After he saved one of his kits who almost got taken away by a hawk, he was brought out of his haze and faced with the fact that he loved these kits and truly wants them to have the best life. He moved on from his grief mostly and actually started to bond and play with them instead of acting like a forced caretaker. They're all young warriors and he's really proud of them all, calling their names and hoping Palepath can hear him. He actually ran into a scene that stopped his heart for a second towards the end of the year. All he could see was his past self because he saw a cat with his 5 kits after his mate died giving birth. He invited the loner to join with his kits and they started a friendship, but we'll get to him later. Emberfeather was furious after Bubblespeck's death and was one of the cats to cause a commotion at the gathering. He wasn't expecting to be chosen as deputy, but he promised to do his best. Side note, Emberfeather was actually Bright Star's mentor. Has there ever been a leader in the books that chose their former mentor as a deputy? Because this is a very interesting development in Power Swap, at least to me. But now we're going into the Medicine Cat Den, where there are multiple elephants in the room. First, I'm going to say Light Snow is temporarily seeking shelter in GalaxyClan after Sharp Clan got so bad that they banned Medicine Cats from going to the Half Moon meetings. Some GalaxyClan cats were suspicious of him because he's the son of Burdock Star, but she publicly disowned him at a gathering that he was not at. Light Snow is not actually in GalaxyClan in-game, and he will be going home after Burdock Star is dealt with somehow. The next elephant in the room is Cinderspeck is now 42 moons old, and he got paralyzed this year. He's not actually paralyzed in-game, but he rolled that he got badly hurt by getting buried in snow during the Leaf Bear generator. He was actually the cat that saved Burdock Star from losing both of her remaining lives during that event. And when I rolled how bad the damage could have been, it ranged from some frostbite, a broken leg, missing tail, but he got the worst damage roll and is now paralyzed. Before that happened, he helped vouch for Light Snow being trustworthy, and their relationship is still a secret to most, but he told the rest of his family, including Molepaw, who is now a warrior. Swanleaf also found out after living in the same den and seeing the signs, but we'll get into that soon. After Cinderspeck's accident, his loved ones were very concerned, but he's doing well, all things considered, and still does his duties in camp. He doesn't want to retire or anything. He's honestly the most worried about how Light Snow will be leaving soon, and now that they really can't see each other, because Cinderspeck can't make it to Half Moon meetings now. Cinderspeck worries that this accident that happened to him is somehow a sign from StarClan, who remain oddly cryptic in regards to whether or not they approve of his relationship. But next up is the 30-moon-old Swanleaf, and she's been annoyed this year. She helped finish up the training of BugClan's Medicine Cat, and side note, he is now named Pinecall. But she was not happy to be faced with even more love drama from someone close to her. First it was her parents, then it was her mentor Ferncloud and the jerk that was Mintsplash, and now it's her second mentor. She wanted to scream that this was against the code, but held her tongue and quietly seethed in anger. She really was in a bad mood pretty much this entire year, and I figured it was self-explanatory, but then at the very end of the year, I noticed something. She seems to scoff at the idea of love and hates it, yet Swanleaf currently has a crush. An unrequited crush because that cat is actually in a relationship right now, and I'll reveal who it is later. Matters of the heart really truly seem like a curse to her. She was worried after Cinderspeck's accident, but glared at Light Snow, instantly blaming their relationship for seemingly being punished. Swanleaf's been very stressed and emotional this year. She's not having a good time. Now onto our warriors, starting with Bristlethroat, who is 122 moons old and not retired yet. In this updated version, cats can kind of choose whenever they want to retire, and I think that's fun. Also, she now has the talented swimmer trait, which is a surprise, but also fun. She also immediately got another apprentice after Eaglepaw finished training. And she got a torn ear when they ran into a rogue on their first patrol. Side note, if you're on the channel Discord, you can submit OCs to potentially cameo as rogues or other events like this. I put your names in a doc and I randomize one, so everything's fair. Bristlethroat was actually the other cat who started the commotion at the gathering after Bubblespeck's death, And I think since both her and Emberfeather are parents, it was also partially sparked by Mawquasar disowning her own son, who seemed nothing but sweet. Bristlethroat is a firecracker, and I love her. She's also very proud of both her daughters and is excited because she's going to be a grandmother soon, because one of them is expecting a litter. But next up is Ravenspot, who is 111 moons old, and he is really not doing well. He had already been debating retiring from being deputy so he could focus on his family, and then he saw the love of his life get killed by Mintsplash. Blood warning for a picture going up, I'll let you know when it's gone. Ravenspot killed Mintsplash in a conflicted rage, but cried stunned afterwards. How could Mintsplash hurt his family like this? And the picture is off the screen now. Mintsplash had been Ravenspot's apprentice, and he feels like a failure and doesn't know how everything got so bad. Ravenspot stepped down as deputy after this and has been very depressed. He's also been having a hard time sleeping after he basically spent 9 years of his life cuddling with Aspen Lily. His children are all trying to make sure he's doing okay, but he's been very numb lately. Only really snapping out of it for a bit after Cinderspeck's accident so he could take care of him instead. Meanwhile, his brother Cinder Petal is doing a bit better this year. He's also doing his best to comfort his brother, who he's really worried for and is actually encouraging to retire fully instead of just from the deputy position. Ravenspot deserves the rest. Also, Cinder Petal was another cat in the running for deputy, but honestly, he's getting older and I want him to focus on relaxing too. Also, I kind of wanted a younger leader because all of our leaders have been old. In other news, Stoneleaf was actually walking in Cinder Petal's dreams this year, and Cinder Petal had the status he was happy that moon, so it seems the boys have made up. But the more interesting part is on that exact moon that he seemed to reconnect with Stoneleaf, Cinder Petal found and adopted an injured kitten. Blood warning for a pic going up in 3, 2, 1. He found a young kit who was almost an apprentice age with an injury on her neck from porcupine quills. She was a little dazed from the blood loss, and he brought her back to camp to be checked out. And the pic is gone. So now that Cinder Petal is almost an elder, he finally had his own kit. I like to think that Stoneleaf led him to her and asked him to raise her like they would have been able to together had Stoneleaf not made his horrible mistakes that prevented them from ever having a family. Cinder Petal spoils his new daughter, and I love her. She's an apprentice now. We'll get to her later. But next up is Ottertail, who is 61 moons old, and he's had a mixed year. I'll start with the good. Ottertail chased out a group of rogues early in the year, so he continues to unexpectedly be awesome. He's also really proud of Emberfeather being chosen as deputy, happy that his brother's doing better. Now on to sad stuff. The biggest being the fact that his best friend Potato Cloud just died. That hurt a lot, and he's still grieving. And another thing that's bugging him is that he knows that Swanleaf is hurting, but she won't tell him why. They've actually grown a lot closer, but he keeps noticing something's bugging her, and he knows what some of it is. He understands what it's like to pine for someone you can't have, and recognizes that Swanleaf is feeling that way, but he doesn't know how to bring it up without her snapping at him. Overall, Ottertail's doing his best, but he's kind of sad right now. Next up is Fernhardt, who is now 42 moons old. She had a rough early half of this year. Mintsplash was still harassing her. Specklenose, who was her surrogate mom, and Aspen Lily, her dad, died. And she found out that not only those two, but her sister Patchwing also died, all because of Mintsplash, her former mate. She blamed herself for seeing the destruction of her family and went down a bit of a spiral. Luckily, her remaining family was there to help her recover and tell her it wasn't her fault, including her kits, who are all warriors now. One of them even has a mate now. They seem happy, which makes her happy as well. While she was on patrol with Bright Mask at the time, she asked him why she feels StarClan ignores her, and he comforted her about her many talents, making her feel a lot better. She's slowly been doing better in healing. She enjoys providing for her clan and makes sure to bring her brother Cinderspeck prey every day. Like I said, she does still have a crush on Brightstar, so we'll see if that happens in the future. Next up is the 38-moon-old Oakspring and the 35-moon-old Mothblaze, who became mates early on in the year. And on the very last moon of this year, Mothblaze announced that she's expecting kittens. So I'm excited to show them next year. These two are absolute agents of chaos, and I love them. Mothblaze is always pulling pranks, and Oakspring is always doing weird things that freak other cats out, like barking and walking on his front legs. Total power couple. Mothblaze also got an apprentice this year, and without telling you who it is, they ended up with the trait Shameless. So Mothblaze is out here spreading the chaos, and Weedleap approves. Oakspring didn't seem too upset at Mintsplash's death, but I think he was more so upset for not noticing just how far his brother had gone. Oakspring is very excited to be a dad though, and he promises to treat his family right. Now it's time to see how all the new apprentices and kits from last year are doing, as well as all their new names. Starting with the 23-moon-old Spireflake. She got the good teacher skill, and she put it to use as she got an apprentice super early into her warrior days. And unfortunately, they ran into a dog on their first patrol, leading the Spireflake making sure their apprentice got to safety, but getting caught by the dog herself. She ended up losing her tail in that event, but she was happy her apprentice was safe. Spireflake also managed to break past her brother's defenses, and he finally let her comfort him. I actually really like Spireflake, and I can see her being deputy potential in the future when she's older. Next up is her brother, the newly named Cloud J, who has become a great fighter. He's still cold, but he lets people close to him in now. He has a lot of trauma related to dogs and has developed a crippling fear where despite him being strong, he kind of freezes up when he sees one. Shrewpatch and Specklenose got killed by them, and he couldn't hide his fear when Spireflake came back missing a tail. After Aspen Lily's death, his sister burst in demanding he stop dealing with things alone and that she and the rest of her family is there for him, eventually leading to him breaking down a bit, but he denies that part. What you do need to know is that these siblings are now closer. Cloud J also just got an apprentice of his own, and while he likes her, his cold nature is a bit intimidating, and he asked Spireflake for some advice where she basically said to be nicer, and he just kind of looked at her confused. Next up is the 22-moon-old newly named Moleshade, who has become a renowned hunter. And during the harsh leaf bear when cats were starving, they actually stole a sandwich from some two-legs, which shouldn't make me laugh considering the situation, but it still does. They actually noticed the Bug Clan medicine cat Pinecall at a gathering, and instantly the two stared at each other, realizing they were definitely siblings. The two are keeping the fact they know this a secret, and while they have no idea why Mole Kit was left in GalaxyClan, they're not too concerned because Pinecall told Moleshade StarClan said it's destiny and left it at that. The two occasionally meet each other secretly at the border since they both know normal medicine cat paths. Moleshade is the child of Cinderspeck after all. Moleshade was sad about Specklenose's death, but bounced back after a bit. She really did a good job training them. They were shocked to hear about Lightsnow dating Cinderspeck, but they've been enjoying getting to know their basically new dad. Moleshade casually helps gather herbs with him when needed now that Cinderspeck is injured, so they've been bonding. Next up is the 22-moon-old newly named Lightfoot, which is a very fitting name considering she is sneaky and a good hunter, as well as the 20-moon-old newly named Dark Whistle, who gained the trait Incredibly Clever. They actually just became a couple towards the end of the year. These two are also little troublemakers like Oak and Moth are. Lightfoot was actually caught rolling in catmint, and Dark Whistle's siblings are a little concerned that she's a bad influence on him. Dark Whistle was the least hurt by Mintsplash's actions on the outside, but after everything, he went to his former mentor Brightmask at the time, who comforted him through these conflicted feelings he was having. And also, Swanleaf's secret crush is actually Lightfoot, which is very unexpected considering they've actually argued on patrols due to Lightfoot not taking duties seriously, and also probably the fact that she rolled in catmint. That probably didn't help. I don't think Lightfoot even knows that Swanleaf likes her. As for these two here, the couple is doing really good. Fernhardt told Dark Whistle to treat her good and be a kind mate, but she also told him to come straight to her if Lightfoot is ever mean to him. She is always here for her baby. But next up is the newly named Eagle Strike, who is also incredibly clever. She doesn't like Lightfoot and thinks she's a mouse brain not hiding her disappointments of her brother's choice of a mate. Fernhardt tells her to be nice though. Her training went really smoothly after the fox incident, and she's a force to be reckoned with now, taking on a dog and leaf bear with her brothers. She's angry that Mintsplash never seemed to notice her, and is mad that he's gone and won't be able to see her prove herself. And most of all, she hates that she cares. She already has deputy goals and wants to be leader one day just to prove that she's good enough and she can do it. Eagle Strike is going through some inner turmoil right now, and she's not completely over her scarred face, and thinks fate kind of mocks her that her bangs still don't cover it completely. I'm hoping she has a better time next year. And last in her litter is the previously named Mintpaw, who was renamed Sage Dust at his warrior ceremony at his request for a full name change. He enjoyed the look of betrayal Mintsplash had at the time. He's also very clever, so it seems this whole litter is a smart bunch. His mentor Oakspring grew on him over time, and they now get along better. He even manages to make Sage Dust laugh every now and again. Sage Dust was furious when he learned the extent of Mintsplash's crimes, and he is really mad at the fact he can't even do anything about it now because he's dead. Sage just vows to protect Fernhardt now and is a total mama's boy. He can go from looking grumpy and annoyed to immediately smiling and melting when he's with her. He's also even more self-conscious about the fact that he resembles his father so much after everything that came out. But the clan overall is really nice to him, and they don't see that as a bad thing. Still unfortunate. Now on to the 5 Pale Ember Kits, who are now all 14 moons old. First up is Flaxroar, who is ironically a calm cat and an excellent teacher. I imagine she was more so named for her lion-like appearance after she fluffed out more. She was apprenticed to Spireflake and was horrified after she lost her tail with the dog. She became insecure that Spireflake was disappointed in her, but her mentor reassured her and helped calm her down. She seems to enjoy humming to herself to calm down, as she's done it on multiple occasions. Flaxroar is a sweetheart, and she worries about her rowdier siblings in the bunch, especially the shameless and very clever Lichen Spark. While they've certainly grown to look less similar after Flaxroar has gotten bigger, these two twins are still really close, and Lichen Spark has given Flaxroar constant anxiety. As a kit, Lichen Kit almost got taken away by a hawk, and when the shock wore off, she was patched up, and she just kept talking about how the view was pretty cool, and how she wished she could fly. Lichen Paw had been apprenticed to Bubble Speck, and on her very first patrol, they ran into a fox. Bubble Speck told her to climb a tree and was shocked seeing her leap out of it once she reached a high enough spot. She landed on the fox and it ran away startled. Bubble Speck complained that he told her to stay in the tree, but she just responded that he said to climb the tree. He never said to stay in the tree. Lichen Spark is a health hazard to those around her, and she's going to give someone a heart attack one day. Next up is the compassionate Lavender Heather, who came out as trans when she was still an apprentice 1 moon before becoming a warrior, and I love that for her. And if she wants a name that are 2 different purple flowers, she can have it. She was also apparently named after her heart, which is adorable to me. She was really close to her mentor Bright Mask at the time, and I like to think she came out to him first, and he helped her find the courage to tell others. She also has a deep StarClan bond, which I find really interesting. Also, when I switched over these cats to the new version, a few of them actually got slightly different colored pelts, because some stuff in the files got changed, so the tints are wrong. And I ignored most of them, except for Lavender Heather, because I think this coloring helps her look less like a Raven Aspen kit. And also just the fact that she transitioned, and then her colors also transitioned. I just like that. Overall, I love Lavender Heather. She's adorable. Next up is the shameless Bugwish, who is incredibly clever, and I find it really funny that she was named after her enthusiasm. She was apprenticed to Moth, surprisingly, and the two got into all kinds of trouble, but they didn't ever get caught. They may or may not have crossed the Sharp clan border to catch some prey, which is concerning knowing what later happened to Bubble Speck. Oak Spring tagged along on a few patrols, and Bugwish really likes him too. She's a little goofball, but Mothblaze might not have been the best influence on her because Bugpaw actually started off with the strict trait, and I find this change in personality hilarious. I forgot to write down everyone's apprentice personalities because I forgot they change again in the new version, but I remember Bugwish because it was too funny. If I remember correctly, the others didn't really change, or they didn't change much. But yeah, I love her. Last up in this huge litter is the fierce Hollowpath, who is a great teacher. He was apprenticed to Bristlethroat and ran into a rogue on their first patrol. And I kid you not, every other patrol was either rogues, foxes, dogs, or something similar. These two were very busy this year. Hollowpath was upset with his dad at first for ignoring him as a kid, but calmed down when Emberfeather finally explained it was because he reminded him so much of Palepath, and he enjoys hearing stories about his mom. He accepted Path as his suffix and looked up at the stars hoping Palepath was watching. He seems to really want to prove himself by facing dangers, but also, interestingly, Hollowpath was seen touching noses with a loner at the very last moon of this year. I didn't draw that in case I find a loner next year that might be. But boy, you just became a warrior. Why are you already potentially having a secret relationship? But anyway, heading into the apprentice den, there's actually only one right now. Cinder Petal's adopted kit, the 7-moon-old Wisp Paw, who is troublesome and apprenticed to Cloud Jay. Wisp Kit was technically found with a scar, and I checked the files to see what exactly it was called, and it was called a quill scar, so she ran into a porcupine before she joined. She actually joined at 5 moons old, so she was actually pretty old to be an abandoned kitten. Cinder Petal found her, and he babies her. On her first patrol of Cloud Jay, she actually accidentally followed her own footprints, thinking it was an enemy, which wasted time in the dangerous leaf bear. Cloudjay looked at her disappointed, but didn't say anything beyond telling her to continue the patrol. She was really embarrassed, and she kind of thinks her mentor hates her, even though that's not the case. She sneaks out for night hunting since she's the only apprentice in the den, and no one has caught her yet. Also, she's gorgeous. I love her so much. Heading into the nursery, we have the former loner Garlic and his free surviving kittens, who are now all 2 moons old. As stated before, no idea how they are getting fed, but we don't think about that, it's fine. Garlic is righteous and very clever. He was invited by Emberfeather and later learned that they both lost their mates when they gave birth to 5 kits, finding a solidarity with the fellow widowed single father. The death of Almond Kit and Swarm Kit hurt him, and he's worried about his 3 remaining kits, which are his noisy son, Orange Kit, and his daughters, the Nervous Butterfly Kit and the Daydreaming Cinnamon Kit. Love these names, by the way. And I love that Butterfly Kit has the wing pattern. Very cute. Garlic hasn't been here long, but I hope he settles in and that the rest of his kits live because I feel so bad for this man. And last up, the Elder's Den is suddenly a lot more empty. Weedleaf is the only surviving elder, and they had a rough year. Their son turned out to be a murderer and then got killed. She doesn't blame Ravenspot for that at all, but it's still hard to see her son end up as such a scumbag. Then Odd died. It was expected, but it still hurt. Weedleaf comforted Bat for the few moons until he died too, along with Blue Light. She suddenly forgot what she had enjoyed about the quiet for all these moons before joining the clan. They may be lonesome, but the sudden change is upsetting to them. Luckily, Oakspring visits her all the time, along with his mate. Weedleaf absolutely approves of the chaos and is looking forward to seeing their litter, hoping some get the family fangs. And that's year 9. Wow, this was a tragic year. So many good cats died and not a lot of the cats are happy. I'm still shocked that the first thing that happened after switching over to the newest version was Odd instantly died. At least there's still her chaotic relatives and their chaotic mates. There's still chaos within the clan, and that's good. The brothers Ravenspot and Cinder Petal are now the only clan founders who are still around. Burdock Star died, and now Bright Star will lead the fight against Sharp Clan. But yeah, this year was an oof. A long time ago, one of my plans was to end this series at 10 years, but I'm honestly super invested and can keep going for a long time if you're still interested too. Though I might turn extinction events on if we get too many cats again, instead of running a generator, but also those take forever to actually happen based on my experience, so who knows. I get too attached and losing these cats hurts me, but I am attempting to keep the clan a reasonable size. Stop having litters of 5 kittens, I swear. I do also have a fire generator that I'm planning on running if a cat ever gets a fire-related injury like a burn, to add more drama and see how the fire would affect others. Thank you for all the support on this series. It always lightens up my day and makes me happy over how many people enjoy my silly cats as much as I do. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you could like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. My channel, Discord, and other socials are linked below, including my Instagram, if you want to check them out. My commissions are open if you'd like to support me that way. GalaxyClan gets updated about monthly, and the next year should come out at the end of this month, but I might be busy because it is art fight season, so sorry if it takes until August. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I'm sorry this episode probably broke your heart. It definitely caused me a lot of pain, and I'll see you next time. Peace.